already did the first one today.
Time's pretty tough right now. Everyone is stuck inside, people are hoarding toilet paper like it's gold, and I can even go give my grandma a gee-dang hug. Miss you, Grandma. And now that shit has hit the fan, we all have a lot of spare time. Some more than others. When times get tough, most of us tend to grasp at escapism to get away with what we're dealing with. Some people like to cook or read books. I, on the other hand, find myself arguing with my sleep paralysis demon about where he hid the goddamn remote. Hyperbole aside, a lot of us are going to be either watching TV or playing video games, or both. So out of sheer boredom, a lot of spare time, and my last paycheck, I decided to go through what games I can't live without during a quarantine. I'm sure a lot of us wish we could go back outside to farm, fish, harass our neighbors, kill creatures in caves, contemplate how many goddamn chickens were in a psych evaluation, and stalk Penny because no matter how many melons you give her, she still won't love you. Luckily, we can live out all these urges in Stardew Valley. Originally releasing on February 26, 2016 to critical acclaim and developed by one Eric Barone, yes, this game was entirely developed by one person. I can hardly develop a reason to get out of my own bed in the morning. Depression symptoms aside, Stardew Valley starts with your dying grandfather giving you the burden of taking care of his shit decrepit property. He gives you a letter, a cowboy licks his lips, and next thing you know, Robin is harassing you to take care of his depressing farm. Do you like chores? No? Great! You'll love virtual chores. Clear your land, craft, grow crops, stalk Penny, befriend locals, house farm animals, name them Sparky, get attached, sell her for no profit, cry at the mistake you made.
Why would I do this?
The locals range from rude to depressing to I don't give a shit about your feelings.
Why would you say that?
But the thing is, Stardew Valley is so much more than what is on the surface. It is truly a time sink and a great game to relax to, whether you end up spending hours making as much money as you can from farming, or befriending the townspeople, or the many, many other things you can do.
She sent me a restraining order.
It's one of my favorite games you can sit down and relax to. With the amount of craftable items, surprisingly deep characters for a farming simulator, each with their own story, the music and aesthetic all come together to make something that is extremely fun to play, and you will have a hard time putting it down. It is still being updated, and now on most platforms, it is a game I recommend to play to keep your mind off the fact that the world is on fire. BioShock. It's quite the opposite of Stardew Valley. It's fucking spooky. A hard 180 from a relaxing farm simulator to a game series that is responsible for raising a generation that beats people with wrenches and stalks small children. Now, while neither of those things are true, what is true is the fact that the BioShock series has already been around for over 10 years and is a series beloved by many. Take a journey to Rapture, twice, with some friendly locals, and then once to a flying city with a friendly bird. Inject yourself with plasmids, essentially making you a superhero. Just note that this makes everyone in all the games very jealous of you, and they try to rip your head off for it. Meet the Big Daddy, some larger fellows who protect the little sisters. While you could argue they are ex-felons on parole falling around small children in a Jacques Cousteau diving suit, there is no longer any semblance of law in Rapture. You're the law. Put those big boys where they belong, dead, and then harvest the children for more power. Or save them. Jokes aside, BioShock has an excellent balance of horror and action with somehow both a beautiful yet horrifying atmosphere. It has a story that, while it's told in bits and pieces, comes to one of the most interesting conclusions and keeps you interested throughout.
Daddy, big sister doesn't want you playing with me.
What the fuck was that?
While the second game made some changes that a lot of people don't agree with, or a lack of changes, BioShock 2 reuses assets, almost identical gameplay to the first with little to no variation. However, you can now walk outside of Rapture, and this time you get to do the stalking. You're a big daddy this time around on a quest for a little sister. Some new weapons, some new abilities, and an alright story for what it's worth, but BioShock 2 just doesn't quite live up to what the original BioShock was. BioShock 2 does get its fair share of hate. This isn't to say it's a bad game. It isn't. It is still enjoyable, but in my opinion does not live up to the original. BioShock Infinite strays furthest from the norm in terms of how the series has been so far, some new mechanics and all new plasmids. Except they're not plasmids in this game, they're vigors.
Oh, fun.
Oh hey, it's that friendly bird I was talking about. Infinite has gone for a more story-driven and action experience in lieu of the horror aspect like its two predecessors. Instead of stalking children in the previous two, we are kidnapping them in Infinite. Meet Elizabeth, your extremely talkative companion who really just wants to go to Paris. One of my favorite additions to the BioShock series, Elizabeth luckily doesn't take on the cliche of useless NPC companions. She will casually throw you health items, weapons, and ammunition during fights. You are also given a skyhook, making certain fights extremely fast-paced. The skyhook allows you to traverse large parts of an area at breakneck speeds. All in all, BioShock is a series that has spanned a decade. I highly recommend all 3 of the BioShock games despite the wishy-washy reviews for BioShock 2. The Resident Evil series is famous for its evil residents and zombies. The way things are going right now, it certainly feels like there is a zombie apocalypse going on outside. I know that there are some people who wish there was a zombie apocalypse.
Goddamn son of a bitch. Fucking hate it.
Resident Evil 2, which is a remake for the original Resident Evil 2, released on January 25th, 2019 to critical acclaim, and my acclaim, for what that's worth. Some of you are probably wondering why I'm not playing Resident Evil 3 instead. Well, I do not find $60 worth it for a 4 to 5 hour game that is considered just good. Judge me how you like based on that statement, but I stand by it. From what I understand, Resident Evil 3 seemed like a cash grab. Anywho, I never played the original Resident Evil 2. My journey with the series began with Resident Evil 4 on the Nintendo GameCube. I was way too young to be playing that game. Thanks, Mom. I then played and enjoyed every game after that, except, well, you know. I knew that the main character of Resident Evil 4, Leon Kennedy, was one of the main stars of Resident Evil 2. I say one of because you also get to play as Claire Redfield. What I like is opposed to constantly switching off between characters in one playthrough, you get 2 entirely separate campaigns that are different enough between the 2 characters that the second playthrough is just as fun as the first. Anyways, where was I? City overrun with raccoons becomes overrun with zombies. You're Leon Kennedy. Or you're not. Kill zombies. Consume plant. Flirt with Claire Defense.
Claire! Hold on! I'll be right there!
Okay!
Claire! It's so nice to see you.
How are you doing?
Wrestle with the depression after dealing with Marvin. Be pursued by evil Mr. Clean. Resident Evil 2 genuinely scared and still scares the shit out of me. Out of all the games I picked, which now that I'm writing the script, realize I picked primarily horror games about the end of the world, go figure, is the most terrifying. The graphics are insane for a PlayStation game. I am truly stunned my PS4 didn't explode running this. Resident Evil 2 and like many other Resident Evil games involve a lot of backtracking, but it never feels like you're backtracking to progress. The way everything is laid out and how the progression works, I never got bored running back and forth to unlock new areas, especially when the Michelin Man decided to put on a hat and trench coat and pursue you with his good deals on tires. The zombies in RE2 are awful. They invade your personal space constantly, don't understand consent, and take a majority of your bullets. It is always a decision of, can I get around that guy? Do I need to waste ammo? Should I look around more and come back later? Which makes every encounter with every enemy extremely stressful. Your inventory is a whole other issue. It's very limited and you need to make important decisions like, do I consume plant to make room for gun dust? I love this type of resource management on the fly. In some situations, you need to be ready to depart with an item you thought was necessary at the time, but ended up being less important than what is currently in front of you. Resident Evil 2 is a must-play. Chances are you will be on the edge of your seat or in another room because you forgot to turn off your PS4. While the story is just a tad less interesting than some of the other games in the series, I still think that Resident Evil 2 was one of the best games in 2019. Are you seeing the theme yet?
No.
Doom Eternal releasing on March 20th, 2020 was something a lot of us needed. Right around the time shit started going south with the spooky flu, Doom Eternal graced our consoles with what we came to expect. Gratuitous amounts of gore, violence, questionable amounts of silence from our protagonist, except for one scene, surprisingly, and impatient button pushing. Meet Doom Guy. That's about it on Doom Guy. Demons have made it to Earth in Doom Eternal, and while there are entire groups of people that are dedicated to making that reality, Doom Guy isn't a fan about it. One could say he's pretty miffed. Run rampant through the streets of, Now, Doom Guy, we just talked about boundaries and consent in the last game. Doom Eternal brings some new features such as Yellow Bar and Please Don't Touch Me, I'm Fragile. The new traversal mechanics in Doom Eternal make the fights incredibly fast-paced compared to Doom 2016, my favorite addition being the dash, which also ties into the platforming. A gun collection that would make most NRA members blush, you have quite the artillery at your disposal. A welcome return to the Doom series are a bunch of your favorite weapons. Upgrade to said weapons, such as Explosive Potato Shooter. There are a few new additions, such as the Crucible, a grenade launcher, and a flamethrower, which is one of my favorite additions. And with all the Doom games comes the, lack of boundaries. Doom Eternal is an action-packed, blood-fueled romp through a large expanse of levels that range from destroyed city, space colony, oh shit, was that Mars? Ancient yet modern alien city, and all of these levels come with platforming to break up the combat. Luckily, the platforming is fun enough to not get old. Set pieces are truly disgusting, but in the best way possible. A game like Doom Eternal with little story tells so much with the aesthetic and backdrops that are just gorgeous. Look at this guy. What's his story? Let's assume due to the surrounding area's current conditions, he had something to do with it. Excuse me, sir? Sir? Fine. Fuck you too. I love it when a game can tell a story without a narrative. The challenge in Doom has not gone anywhere. It is apparent that the Doom series isn't known for holding your hand, and that is to say the same for this game. I know there have been some complaints that Eternal is easier than Doom 2016, but I disagree. I still found myself dying quite often on ultraviolence. Then again, I probably just suck. I'm sure a lot of us have some pent-up frustration and aggression. I couldn't recommend a better game than Doom Eternal if you just need some mindless fun. I'm gonna need to preface this one a little bit. I cannot stress enough of how large of a bias I have towards this game. In fact, I should have said this earlier, but you are allowed to disagree with my opinions. But that's what this list is about, my opinions. The Last of Us is one of my favorite games of all time. I can honestly admit it is one of the few pieces of media that has made my tear ducts commit the sad. If you're looking for a story with a happy premise, The Last of Us is not for you. If you're looking for a relaxing game, The Last of Us is not for you. If you're looking for a modern depiction of a father-daughter trip to Kroger, then shit, you found a game for you. If you're looking for one of the best acted and written games of this generation, The Last of Us is without a doubt for you.
Ellie. Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill! Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around.
All right.
And get on your knees. Don't test me. Just
Take it easy.
any bites. Oh. Anything sprouting?
Oh, God damn it, I'm clean!
If I see so much as a twitch. Ow!
Stop!
Son of a bitch!
You done?
Am I done? You come into my house, you set off all my traps, you damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
I owe Joel some favors. Is some kind of joke?
The original Last of Us released on June 14th, 2013, and the remastered version on July 29th, 2014, and won over 200 Game of the Year awards. It's a big number. You will most likely grow closer with some of these characters than you ever will with your own family members. This game will, without a doubt, pull on your heartstrings at certain points, and by the end have you questioning your own worldviews. Meet Joel, an ex-dad who really doesn't like smuggling children, until he does.
That doesn't sound right.
Meet Ellie, a girl who really doesn't like being smuggled, until she does.
That doesn't sound right.
The world is depressing, it's dark, it's gritty, and society has crumbled due to a virus. Cordyceps, a fungus that actually exists in this real world that is real and infects ants and controls their minds, has managed to jump to humans. The result is horrifying. There are essentially two ways to play The Last of Us, stealth and non-stealth. But that's what I love. I'm not a fan of forced stealth or forced action. You get to choose. While you would assume that stealthing through a mission would be the easier choice, you would be wrong. Stealth in this game involves strategy, patience, and a firm control of your bowel movements.
That doesn't sound...
But then again, on the other hand, shooting your way through situations isn't always the correct answer either. But sometimes you need to rely on both, sometimes leaning more towards one than the other. There needs to be a balance to get through situations, especially on the harder difficulties where supplies and ammunition are as rare as hand sanitizer. The crafting in The Last of Us is simple. It's bare bones, but it gets the job done. But due to the scarcity of materials on the harder difficulties, finding a scissor blade or bottle of alcohol can determine whether you're going to die, or whether you're going to die, because on the harder difficulties, you're going to die. While I'm going to attempt to avoid spoilers, the performances given by Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, who voice Joel and Ellie respectively, knock it out of the park. You have to remember these are people in skin-tight suits with balls all over their body, acting out all these scenes and then having to revoice them. Just an absolutely phenomenal performance. The story, while having a few slow parts here and there, is gut-punchingly sad, dark, and will make you question morality in general. Even the side conversations that happen organically while you're trying to figure out where to put a fucking ladder build so much character, flesh out the lore, make you connected with these characters, just prevents you from putting the controller down. If you somehow still haven't picked up The Last of Us, I would think about it. The story, the characters, the absolutely gorgeous world that was built and has a story of its own, the fast-paced and terrifying gameplay all come together to make something depressingly beautiful. And while I understand that the dark and gritty story and gameplay can turn people away, especially due to what is currently going on, this game elicits different emotions from everyone. It brought me happiness, insight into certain aspects of morality, and joy after playing it for the 7th time. That is why I highly recommend you trying this game. Have fun, play video games, stay inside, and stay safe. Thank you so much for watching.